This is the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and hitting subscribe on your friend's phone without them knowing. Coming to you from the Kitchen Studios in downtown Raleigh. This episode is sponsored in part by Blue Shark Vodka. All the taste without the bite. Blue Shark Vodka coming out of Wilmington, North Carolina. And Joe Van Gogh Coffee, serving the community from seed to cup, taking particular care at every step to honor the bean. And now, one tips 30% and the other one is Matthew Weiss. It's Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And 'tis the season. That's right. It's a time for a southern season. You thought it was gone, but it is very much alive. It is very much coming back. And here to tell us all about it is the man that has revived it, the CEO of Calvert Retail, Mr. Eric Brinsfield. Welcome, sir.
Hey, glad to be here. First of all, can I cuss, or how are we
Please
on that?
do.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I got heavy Kendall Roy vibes right now.
Oh yeah, don't spoil it.
Well, I'm in a great headspace right now.
Oh, you're in a
I'll
great,
leave it at that.
Okay, because I'm like 1.5 episodes through, so I wasn't able to finish. I'm nowhere caught up to speed. We're talking about Succession, Max. You have a
Oh, no, I watched Succession, but not on the new season.
You haven't been on the
caught
new
up, but
season,
I haven't
yeah.
started the new one. It's very good. I will also say, because now we're just talking about television, I guess, watch Yellowstone.
Love
It's
it. Love it.
Succession, but on a ranch in Montana.
okay.
Stars a Kevin Costner.
See?
That comes from, I could tie it back, though, because Kevin Costner's famous for his role of Crash Davis in Bull Durham,
Yeah.
not too far from these parts of the triangle. Those fans of the Durham Bulls always shopped at a Southern Season.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm excited to have you here. I will say, Eric, the closing of Southern Season it did not go over well
It was
to
a
the community.
very, very controversial thing. Tell us what happened.
to get started, but you didn't. Well, let's back it up a little bit, because you're like, thanks for starting it off that way. I'll say it this way. Let's just change it a little bit. Southern Season got to a point where they were headed into bankruptcy, and your company came in and took over.
Well, they were in bankruptcy, yeah. So we bought the assets from the bankruptcy court.
Yeah.
And which I had some success in my life doing that, like a couple times before, but I'd always done it with businesses that were shut, right? That I kind of revived, restarted again. So it was still like alive. It was like within days of liquidating.
Yeah.
But it was still alive. So
Let me give you a minute to collect your thoughts and just inform the people that maybe people are listening outside the state or maybe they moved here recently. They didn't even know what a Southern Season was. So a Southern Season was this essentially a specialty food store that was enormous. It was big as a supermarket in Chapel
25,000
Hill.
square feet, I think.
well, if you included it was 65 if you include everything, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean-
and not only that, but they had this school upstairs where they could do live demos and cooking, and anybody who's anybody. I mean, there is a litany of famous chefs who have come and taught classes
and a restaurant, Weathervane, which the chef there was top notch. Good friend, friend of when I was at Midtown Grill and Scott James and all that. Good people that cooked out of there. Really good wine program.
Really good wine program, yeah.
Do you know Felicia's aunt worked in the chocolate department?
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's
right, that's
Always
right.
Felicia has new cousins popping up everywhere.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people that we didn't know.
This
that
show
are
is not sponsored by DNA.com or whatever the thing is used to find all the lost
Ancestry,
relatives,
yeah.
Ancestry.com thing. But I remember when Sarah and I came down to visit North Carolina and we were thinking about moving here, you guys were like, oh, let's go to Chapel Hill and check out a Southern Season. Like it was a
that's right.
place to be. You had to go check it out because there was so much crazy good stuff there, and most of it was local North Carolina stuff. Now you guys they had expanded. They had stores in Asheville. I think they went up to Richmond, Virginia
and
as well,
Charleston
down in South Carolina. So the business had grown, and I guess and maybe got too big for its britches. So maybe you can fill in there and tell us like where they went wrong or where they started to get into trouble.
Yeah, well, basically, it was founded in 1975 by a guy in Chapel Hill, and they had grown over the years. And then about, I think, 2012, some local sort of like private equity guys bought it with the goal of expanding it. And that's when things kind of went off the rails because, the business was so, you alluded to, I mean, so incredibly difficult to manage with a 300-seat restaurant, a cooking school, a wine shop, a candy shop, a coffee bar, a bakery, a deli. I mean, like, I'm just like...
A lot of moving parts.
I've had PTSD thinking, going back
for the
here,
customers,
right?
awesome. For the operators, oh my God.
Well, it's not, it's like, when I first went into the business, I'm like, this is a collection of boutiques, right?
Yeah.
And I tried to fix that, but I realized that the best thing was to keep boutiques,
Well, because
So-
it wasn't just like I think what you said is perfect. It's a collection of boutiques. Like the wine store wasn't just a wine store. It had the best wine selection in North Carolina.
It was the best wine store.
Yeah, and I hear, and no offense to
Sorry, Triangle Wine Company,
Triangle
you
Wine
didn't
Company.
exist then.
Yeah. But and I mean, I've heard legendary stories like Elizabeth Cooper used to run the program there. A lot of Cheaton Reddy, who worked at the Fearington. A lot of well-known wine professionals
Up-and-coming soms,
up-and-coming soms ran that program, and I heard some of the numbers that they used to do. I mean, it's just striking. Jim Wald, who has been on the show, used to sell for them. Used to, I think, help run the program. So and all of that transfers to each department. Like the chocolate place was one of the best chocolate places you could get chocolate. I mean, so everything was top notch. So it wasn't just like, oh no, we're just going to do it. We're going to do it to the best of anybody's ability.
And
so
I think that's why I said that it was sad for the locals, because everything that Southern Season did, they did well, at least forward facing. You got all this great stuff. I mean, heck, I ran a restaurant that I've mentioned many times that was not run so well, and the product was awesome. The food was great, the drinks were great, everything was great, but we were losing money constantly every week. And it's like, yeah, it's great for you guys
Right.
because we're giving you more than what we're making, and y'all are hip to that, because if that's the case, you're like, man, I go there and I get bottomless mimosas and I get whatever I want. It's like, yeah, because this is mismanaged, but it's cool. So is that, am I ringing true a little bit?
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that was exactly it. Like, I just couldn't, like, I had to make changes, and it was just like the old heads in the store would just fault me constantly, and then the guests were bent out of shape, and they egged, my coworkers were unhappy, and it was just, but it had to change, right? It's just not sustainable. Like, the payroll was the amount of, like, my first time I went to Southern Season, there was like 50,000 people working there. This was in 2012, 13, and nobody said hi to me because they were all busy like talking amongst themselves, right? I mean, like, we measure everything in retail like as a percent of sales, right? So, when you look at like, I try to run my stores with payroll at like, 10% of sales, right? When I bought Southern Season, it was 48% of sales. Now, you know what? Like,
Wow.
not to open a kimono too much here, but like, it's retail, right? We buy at 50 cents, we sell for $1, right? So if 48 cents of that dollar is just to pay your coworkers, there's not a lot left for rent and utilities, right? Or let alone profit. Forget about that. So, I try to just staff to sort of like staff to the business needs, right? To sales per hour and things like that. And, it was just kooky. Like, you talked about that assortment. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of that assortment didn't turn, right? So then when I tried to cut the assortment, it was like, well, you've always ordered this for me, this like Lithuanian like fish or something.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, and we got to order 24, you buy 2, and then, 22 go bad, right? So it's like just trying to like, run a sort of modern business. It just,
How did it work before though? Like, was salary just were the people there up and coming so they didn't demand as much of a salary? I mean, how because at some point the business did make money, right?
Sure,
It was
sure.
profitable.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, not to get into too many details, but it wasn't really what you think,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So
Well, it's like when you look at grocery stores, and we've had some boutique shops in here before, and it's like people think oh, these grocery stores are just making cash over the fist, and the profit line is so paper thin that it's like you're doing well when you can have 2,000 guests in a quarter of the day. It's like you need 10,000 people to really make this ship turn. I'm talking about like sales.
Yeah, it's volume based.
And then all that waste, all that stuff
Yep.
gets factored into it, and so it's tough. It's not an easy business to be in.
But having the owner there every day, I think, was the key. And then when that kind of ceased to happen, when Michael Barefoot, sold the business, there wasn't an owner in house every day, right? And I'm living part time in Delaware, back and forth. I have a wife who works full time, 2 young kids. I'm trying to do my best to sort of be in there and get folks motivated, and but you really need a merchant in house all the time, and that was tough. So I think that explains why the business might have been a little more successful in the early 2000s, say, for example, right? But retail is a lot different then too, right? Let's be honest.
Sure.
So
but let's talk to you about, like, you purchased it. Your company did, at least. Now let's get into who you are a little bit, because you mentioned Delaware. You're born, or you're from Delaware originally. Is that right?
It's funny. I'm from Maryland originally. My first year in college, my dad moved. We sold our farm and moved to Wilmington, Delaware.
Oh, okay.
So, I left a farm to go to college, came back at Thanksgiving to like a neighborhood in the suburbs I'd never lived.
Oh, yeah. So, that's got to be weird.
Yeah.
You can never go home, as they say.
Yeah.
But you weren't a stranger to retail. You've been doing this up there.
My whole life. Yeah.
Right. Kitchen and Company, that was one of your first companies, I'd say.
Yeah.
And you ran that for a good while.
Yeah, we still have a couple stores up north. Yeah,
right. And how is it? Is it similar in concept, or how is it different?
Basically, I really saw a lot of synergy, and that was the goal. Like with having the extra, with having the bigger pencil, and that's like means that more buying power, right?
Right.
With having the bigger pencil of Southern Season, the goal was to buy as a distributor, to help with that margin you talked about, right? Because a kitchen company is really basically for everything for cooking, dining, and entertaining, right? But about 10% of our business is like shelf-stable, gourmet food, right? So that was like the synergy that I was really trying to build and develop. And I was also trying to backfill, like, we have this incredible 110-foot cooking tool wall that's just like you would just die. I mean, it's 3,000 cooking tools. It's amazing. Yeah. So, we had that, and I was the goal was to sort of like bring the best of both my stores together, right? And, that was the kind of goal. And, after like 4 years, it was just a hassle.
Well, I want to know why what made you want to buy Southern Season? Because you had to, from the outside perspective looking in, had fond thoughts of it, just like everybody else did, especially for you to say, I want to buy this company. But before we get there, I want to take a quick break to talk about Blue Shark Vodka. Blue Shark Vodka, as all of our listeners know, is made with non-GMO heirloom variety North Carolina sweet corn, which is then distilled how many times, Matt?
3 times?
4 times, man!
Of course!
To perfection. Small batch processes over there. It's just a labor of love. And after distilling it 4 times, that corn mash mellows for 28 days, allowing flavors to fully bloom and awaken. Finally, each batch is triple filtered, giving the vodka a smooth, clean finish and making the alcohol bite nearly vanish. This has earned Blue Shark Vodka's clever nickname, the shark that doesn't bite. So, for more information, go to bluesharkvodka.com or click the link in our show notes.
I actually had a question, even before you get to why you bought Southern Season. As I mentioned, 'tis the season. We are in hardcore holiday shopping season.
Yeah.
This cooking tool, just for like a little tip for our listeners who have cooking friends that they're buying gifts for. What's the number one selling thing on the cooking wall, or what's like some of the best things?
Well, it's kind of boring. Unfortunately, it's always a peeler and a garlic press.
A peeler and a garlic press.
Sorry, that's always it.
That's the number one movers. Like, okay.
Yep.
It is so funny you said garlic press, because yesterday Felicia and I are going through a remodel at our house. We decided to lean things down, and I saw a garlic press, and I go, when the hell are we ever going to use this? She's like, never. I'm like, done. And I threw it in the trash. I literally just...
Somebody will be getting you a garlic press for your holiday gift this year.
Do not get me a garlic press. I have never used one. I have a knife, and that's what I'll use to press my garlic.
Same. I don't have one. I've never used one. Same thing.
It seems like such a waste of the garlic. Like, who are you smashing it for?
We sell a lot of them, so I'm happy for that.
Isn't that fascinating?
But let's think from the outside looking in. Because you spent a lot of time here in North Carolina, you knew about Southern Season. So what made this idea of throwing an offer in attractive to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I told you, like, the first time I visited Southern Season, like, beautiful store, but they didn't tell me what I was supposed to buy, And I mean, I just come from a place where, like, if you're a merchant, you, like, communicate to the guests what you believe in. And so even, like, the Southern Season cheese straws, I mean, the magic cheese straws, we sell so many cheese straws. We work really hard on cheese straws. they were just sitting on a shelf. Like, they weren't highlighted in any way. Our peanuts, we worked really, really hard on our spec for our peanut. It's a slog to get the top jumbo Virginia, super jumbo peanuts. We work really hard on that, but they're just sitting on a shelf, So, we really weren't, believing in product. I mean, Chapel Hill Toffee, just an incredible brand.
Oh, yeah.
I was able to grow that business, from where it was just by really putting it out in front and getting behind it, And so, so that was the thing. And then obviously the guest service aspect I talked about make sure we greet every guest. And there were so many things.
Yeah, that's a huge disconnect because you're saying how much you're paying in salary in terms of your wages percentage, but you're not getting if you're paying that, you expect people to really be able to sell, for lack of a better word.
Well, it's absolutely not per hour wages.
Yeah.
It's not that at all. It's the amount of folks that you have on any given hour, right? So don't get me wrong, like, you have to compensate people well, and I've always done that, and we're doing that now in Graham, where our warehouse is, and because it's just too important that you need folks that obviously
know their product,
that are engaged in the business, that believe in what you're doing, that that care, and oftentimes those high character individuals, they have lots of opportunities, so you have to make sure you're competitive. So it's absolutely not. It's not really a per hour thing as much as it is the amount of folks, right?
Needed.
The best, I've been hiring people most of my professional life, and you always want everyone moving. It's like RPMs in a car. It's why you have multiple gears. It's like you don't want you to be whining the piss out of your engine, and you also don't want to be slugging it really low and chugging. You want to be shifted into that right gear to make sense. So if you're in third gear, that's kind of the parallel of saying we need 3 employees or 4 and 5, and it might go up to 250 gears. But if that's the case, that means all 250 people are working effectively and they have a busy day. Whereas you don't want 300 people where 50 are just kind of standing around picking their nose. And that's not good for them. That's not good for the business. That's not good for anything. It's even a little bit what I'm trying to do with Grafton is like, we realize when you go into a food hall, you see a lot of people at the merchant counter not doing anything because someone just at that very moment isn't buying food from that particular merchant. And I'm like, man, there's like 11 people with these 11 merchants, and only 3 of them are actually selling right now. So 8 people are standing here getting paid maybe $15 an hour. That's a lot of money to just be throwing out to nowhere. What if we just consolidated all the purchasing to just one spot? And what you're doing, because we haven't really got to this right now, but Southern Season is very active, and it's very much open. It's just not open as a brick and mortar the way it once was known. It's a very active, I guess, e-commerce, is that the right term?
I mean, we're
online store.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really exciting year. Like I've owned bought the business in 2016, and this is the first year we've been this prepared for Christmas, right? So, I had 150 people working down here, right? Now I have fewer than 10. And obviously we flex in the fourth quarter, but we are more prepared than we've ever been. So it's super, super exciting. That was just that focus of not having to worry about making sure the grease trap's pumped and which building inspector was going to come in and bang us that day in Chapel Hill. So we're super exciting. We got so many cool new things, and I'm just really excited.
What was just to go back for a second, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? Like when you're like, that's it, we're closing the doors.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it was just like, I was exhausted. Mm-hmm. I was exhausted. And the big picture, and I don't mean to go too deep here, but
please go deep.
But the big picture is, it was just really just, when you own your own business, you learn to sleep at night, not worrying about the 50,000 things you're responsible for. Right. And I was early 50s, my father just died. And all of a sudden, boom, now I'm worrying about stuff I never worried about, Is the deposit being made in Charleston, South Carolina? Is insurance covering this and that? It was a weird thing that happened. And, I just got tired of it. And, I just really wanted to simplify my life. Mm-hmm. And it was, it was a shaky time. It's just I'm a different person now,
How did it work? Do you have a board that you answer to? Is it a privately held company? How who are you answering to, I guess?
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Me, right?
It's all you.
Yeah.
So you are judge and jury in the whole thing.
Yeah. And that's not always, it was always my goal to have a board, and, because I serve on, I serve on a couple boards, obviously, but my buddy, his small, privately closely held business, I was on his board, and, So board's a good thing to have, and I just was never able to put it together.
Okay.
But, that's part of it is not having a partner, not having a sounding board for people to bounce stuff off of. Obviously my wife is just like,
But she's got a full-time job.
Well,
as
yeah, she's just like, cut the shit. You got to like come home, forget it, man. Just, it's not worth it, And, I was just like, Southern Season's special. We can do something here. I'm going to do something. And
right. All is not lost.
Right. And that's, that's what we've been able to do. I mean, we've resourced so many of our products and,
I want to get in. I do want to get into, like you're saying, what Southern Season is now, but I think there's a little like nugget, a little carrot in there for CEOs that might be listening that are thinking about like, how do I balance it? And you just gave like a little jewel there about how you just kind of have this shutting off switch that you can sleep at night and not worry about it, and then maybe the next day. But you're saying that you had this unwanted awareness all of a sudden because of the Southern Season, the physical building was just dragging you down at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like people used to say to me, I had 5 liquor licenses. I had liquor licenses in 5 states, right? Mm-hmm. And people would, say to me like, well, "How can you like? Aren't you worried about this and that?" And I'd be like, "No," because that had been my whole life, right? And but you just get to a point. I don't really know, but it's just like I was just like done.
Yeah.
And just did not want, my health and my family. That was more important. And, I just had to like simplify things. So,
well, I'm going to tell you one thing that's going to simplify and that brings you into that awareness in the morning. It's your cup of Joe.
Your cup of Joe Van Gogh?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah. We'll take a little pause to talk about Joe Van Gogh today as we're pouring these. Thank you, Elizabeth.
New addition to the pod.
Yeah. So Joe Van Gogh, today we're trying something new. It's kind of fun. We're doing the organic Papua New Guinea coffee. This one, flavor notes of tropical brown sugar, an herbal kind of genesis there. The origin is from Gogh, Chimbu Province, Chalve District in the Eastern Highlands. This is high altitude coffee, 1,600 to 1,800 meters. And this is on a roast level, medium to dark. It's kind of like a full-blown big coffee. What do you think, Matt?
Is this the Chavo Province? This is signature Chavo Province coffee.
You can taste the Chavo.
I mean, there is no doubt.
Right.
No, this is who brewed this today? Well done. This is delicious. I think. Yeah.
We handed the reins over to Elizabeth. She did it right.
Good thing. We should have done that a long time ago because this is perfectly roasted. It's like a medium. Somewhere in that medium to full-bodied roast, but it's got chocolate notes and almost like a dark almond note. It's really delicious.
It's delicious.
Super classic high altitude, right? I mean, it's just super nice.
There you go.
Get all that.
Yeah, you would know. Okay, so that's a perfect set. Oh, by the way, go to joevangoghcoffee.com, joevangough.com, or any of their 4 locations throughout the triangle.
I know. I don't know. Joe Van Gogh's not available Southern Season yet.
Hey, not today, but who knows? Maybe tomorrow.
Connect you two together.
After this,
it's a fluid thing, right, Eric?
Yeah. Okay. Now that we're back, there's a lot to your story, Eric, that is not just connected to Southern Season. We're going to get back to it because I want to bitch about retail towards the end of this podcast. But and for all you guys that like hearing me complain, stay to the end.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit more. You've got a lot going on. You and your family, you've done a lot of things. I know I had a brief conversation with you, and you started talking about regenerative agriculture. You sit on the board. You mentioned of a few places out in Delaware and here. The regenerative agriculture really piqued my interest. We've talked with people before when we had Joyce Farms on. We had Dr. Alan Williams on, who really knows his shit, and the shit probably actually helps with the regenerative agriculture as it stands. But maybe get a little glimpse as to what that means to you and how is that connected to you and your family.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a board chair of Delaware Nature Society, right? So we're a statewide nature organization in Delaware that we're the only statewide organization that we have an advocacy, a lobbying arm, and we also do a lot of educational programs, and we conserve land as well, right? So we do all 3 of those things. And what I'm sort of super proud of is we have it's a 400-acre preserve, but about 270 acres of it is a working farm where we're demonstrating regenerative agriculture. And that to me is super important because regenerative agriculture really ticks off 2 super important boxes right now. The first being, climate change. I think we're finally starting to understand the carbon sequestration properties of healthy soil, right?
Right.
I mean, it's huge. That's the first. The other thing is the food security issue. I think that we especially saw it during the pandemic. Like, we can't keep like, as Michael Pollan said, like bringing tomatoes from California to across the whole country, right? Their tomatoes, 70% water, and we just.
Wait, Michael Bolton said this?
Poland. I'm sorry.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. So the food security issue, like, I think if you look at what's happening in the Central Valley of California, I mean, you're from California, right?
I am.
Yeah. So, I just read books, right? But water's getting more scarce out there. Water's becoming like the biggest issue, and
it always has been. Northern California, where I'm from, always saves Southern California's ass because we all had the water, and then they decided to make a metropolis in the desert that is now what we call Los Angeles. Yeah, it can't sustain that many people in that area. Thus, they have to pull all the water from outside places. Yeah, and then yet we still grow a lot of almonds, which is the biggest culprit of water consumption.
Yep.
And every time you buy a California almond, you're like, oh, these are delicious. Yeah, you're ruining the environment of California. Every
almond
time you
milk.
eat it.
Yeah,
which is the stupidest thing to ever make. But.
Yeah, so that's. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. So like, it's such a petroleum dependent. Economy
you just
too.
cut off like a third of our listeners by calling almond milk the stupidest thing to ever make.
When you drink almond milk, you are ruining the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not really thinking about it
right
fully.
with you.
Yeah. I mean, and I mean that only because what the output is of almond milk. I'm not talking about because dairy and veganism, anything like that. There are a lot of other sources you could have to have alternative forms of dairy. Almonds take up so much more resources to produce. We talk about, is the juice worth the squeeze? Well, that juice you're getting off of that almond, I mean, last I checked, you can't really squeeze too much juice out of an almond. And that's part of it, is like by the time you inject so much water into the process of making it, you have diluted all of the available natural resources of water in that place. And that's what California's number one. The number one producer of almonds.
One of an item on the 130-foot long Gadget Wall Kitchen Company is the nut milk bag.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you just put your almonds in there and smash it, and that's.
Wait, so
you can do
it's the nut milk bag.
The nut milk.
Yeah, just
milk bag.
It's not as good a seller as a peeler, but it's still there. So
but the argument that Max is making, and this is interesting. I mean, I never thought of it. We use almond milk for whatever reason. Sarah likes almond milk, but also I'm sure I know that there's a huge movement of Californian almond growers because that's their living and their agricultural, and that's what they grow and make their finances.
There's a bunch of stuff where the almond, big almond, was able to put a huge stop on when they were talking about conserving water for everybody. Like, I grew up as a kid in the 80s where you had to put a block in your toilet, the toilet basin to like cut the amount of water you're using per time. You couldn't water your lawns. You couldn't wash your car. You couldn't, you're water rationing like constant.
Yeah.
Yet the almond producers never slowed down. In fact, because there was now a little bit more water available, they ramped up their business and made more almonds during this time. And we're like, wait a minute, we're all affecting our lives in rationing water so that you guys can make more almonds? We're like, screw you guys. Like, we thought we were doing this because people didn't have drinking water. It was like, no. It's just Big Almond couldn't make as much almonds and almond milk as they did then.
This is really blowing my mind and making me feel guilty because I also not only do drink almond milk.
My bitching was going to be at the end for retail.
No, but I also love almonds. I mean, it's my favorite snack.
It does not surprise
healthy,
me that's
high in protein.
What you like, Matt.
Good fats.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Try macadamia nut. Go bother Hawaii with your problems.
They don't have problems. Well, they're surrounded by water, so they probably don't have problems with that. But yeah, okay. Do you sell almonds in southern season?
I don't think, to be honest, I don't think we do.
Yeah.
I think,
boycott those almonds. No,
yeah.
Okay. We didn't mean to get off that, Jack.
We're going to get a cease and desist from the California almond growers.
Yeah, watch out. Okay, but going back to, because sometimes people, not everyone knows what regenerative agriculture is. Is there just a very elevator pitch idea as to what this means for listeners that might not know?
Yeah, so basically you're growing soil as much as you're growing, produce, right? So that's you're making super healthy soil, and when you have super healthy soil, then the plants are getting everything they need. So you don't need synthetic inputs, right? So that's the big picture. And you're also, what we do is human scale, right? So it's 30-inch by 100-foot beds, which is pretty standard. All hand tools, And you might think that's not sustainable to feed the world. Well, it is if, because the soil is so much more productive. And you just have to have a lot more of these farms, right? So you just can't have one big, huge farm in Iowa somewhere. You've got, which I think someday, I think the future is, if you look at the biggest landowner in the U.S. right now, it's Bill Gates, and there's a reason, because I really feel that the future it's like owning land and water. Is Harvard owns the water rights out in California. The Harvard Endowment has tons of aquifers, and they own water rights in the Central Valley. It's an investment. But anyway, so, to me, the mid-Atlantic of the U.S. could be like, with 8 hour drive of most of the population of the U.S. or a big part of the population of the U.S., it makes this area like the future breadbasket, in my opinion, So.
Well, Dr. Alan Williams said on our podcast, and he made a very simple, informative, and case that he stated, basically, if 10% of the world's farms moved to regenerative agriculture, it would save the world in terms of sourcing locally.
It would slow down the
global warming, climate change, everything. And but even the impact on the economy, the social impact, I mean, everything, and the way that essentially how it would affect people getting paid, everything. And also, this is well known, but needs repeating. The more you buy local, the less an impact it has on the environment, because the less the trucking, the less you have to pay the trucking, dealing with Teamsters, etc., and the less gasoline that's put into the environment. And
until Elon Musk has all of his tunnels through the core of our Earth, that's coming.
Or Elon Musk has huge electric 18-wheelers.
Oh yeah, I'm buying myself a Cybertruck when they're available. I'm all about it. All right, let's get back to Southern Season. I became much more aware of Southern Season because of my wife, because of Felicia and Food Scene, and here at the kitchen, and even MRC. You're working with Food Scene and MRC to do like some branding and social media, and even currently as we speak, my wife is shooting all of the product shots for the upcoming catalog, if you will, and like a lot of online stuff. So my house like has one of everything that Southern Season sells, which is it's kind of cool. It's there's a lot of stuff going on there, but it's amazing. You start seeing what Southern Season offers. The name, of course, Southern Season implies that it's from the South, and it's all there, but the roots really still are tied to local of the area. So maybe kind of tell us a little bit about like what you're sourcing, who you're representing, and all.
Well, that was the big rub. I mean, that was what I tried to do with the Chapel Hill store was, like I feel like in 1975, in the 80s, and probably in the 90s to a certain extent, Southern Season brought the world to Chapel Hill, right? Well, by the time I bought the business, the world was already in Chapel Hill in North Carolina, right? Yeah. So no, like it had to change. And I was trying to pivot the business to be more like hyper local, hyper regional, and then best of the U.S. after that, right? And so that's what I was trying to do. So, what I've been able to do now, not having the distraction of this business I was trying to make, work, I've really, sought out some really great small local folks. And, we've got the barbecue sauce sampler. So if I don't know the count of how many local folks I have putting sauce in there, but it's, we probably have 20 some local, like North Carolina sauce people in there. I found there's a lady down in Tampa, Florida, who this is for our southern pantry gift. She does this incredible sea salt down there. I mean, it's just really great product. I've got Georgia olive oil. Just some really neat,
cool, localized, and not necessarily to Chapel Hill, but like local to the South. And I think the country caught up to us, realizing that the South really is the basin of. We're like the pantry of the culinary world. I mean, all the best stuff is being produced out here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it makes sense to be able to have a singular place. That's where I want to talk about the retail. Like, what is the current state of retail in America? You don't have to be a professional to just know this. This is like everybody. I mean, we're going to be, Matt, you should be buying, I was going to say Christmas gifts. Never mind. Buying your Hanukkah gifts now as opposed to like in a month, because the availability to get things and gifts is going to be a challenge, and like shipping and all of that. But a lot of this has led to why the e-commerce is so important, right? I mean, the current state of Southern Season is not different than most companies. This is where I will bitch for a second. My daughter wanted some basketball shoes, and she needed them that afternoon, and realized in the morning, hey, Dad, my feet grew, and I can't fit into them. I'm like, great, I have to go buy these now. Let me go to Foot Locker because they sell shoes. When I got there, they're like, oh yeah, we don't really keep an inventory. Definitely not of kids' shoes, and definitely not of basketball shoes. And I went, I looked at the two people selling to me. I go, I'm at a Foot Locker trying to buy basketball shoes, and you're telling me you don't have them in stock? And they're like, yeah, we mainly do it online. Which also, during this whole remodel, I'm at Home Depot buying something, and I asked, oh, do you have any more of X? And they go, oh, let's see. And they go on the website on their phone, and I'm like, yeah, I could do that myself. I'm asking you as a human, can you go put some eyes on it and go get it to me? And they're like, well, it's easier for us to just find it here. Basically, why are you here? Why am I here? Why are we even out in public any longer buying things? So
the bar's pretty low. You're right.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Like, we talked about the disadvantages of kind of being like, not reporting to anybody, right? Of making your own decisions. But the advantages are that I've made some calls that, have been bananas. But like, for example, in Graham, North Carolina, I have a warehouse full of Cuisinart electrics and cookware for my stores up in Pennsylvania and Delaware, my 2 stores up there, because, I knew that wasn't going to be available from the vendor. So I bought that in March and stuffed it away in my warehouse down here. Now, look, that's expensive, right?
Right.
Because I got to turn around and ship it up there. But you know what's more expensive? Not having it in the first place, right? So, we've made some calls. I mean, like, it's, I happen to know a guy who runs the largest trucking company that out of Port of LA, and I bumped into him in late February, and he's like, buy your stuff, buy your stuff, buy your stuff. He's like, it's going to lock down.
Yep.
So I saw this coming. I've been telling people, and I'm reading the New York Times, following which ports are shut down in China. I'm like, oh, Shenzhen shut down. Okay, well, that means, so it's just been, we've made a huge commitment inventory early for just that reason, and we're seeing benefits.
Isn't it kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, though? Because that advice is also what leads to that problem. Like, when everyone says, get all your stuff now, buy it all right now, then everyone does, thus creating the steadiness of inventory that could last for a long time.
No, because I think,
like the toilet paper problem, right? Like, everyone said go buy it, so everyone bought it, and now we don't have it. If everyone would have just bought it at the same rate that they normally would have bought it, the shelves would have been stocked.
I'm a small business guy. I can't afford to do that. I got to, because here's why. I'm at the bottom of the list. Do you think they're going to fill Bed Bath's order first, or are they going to fill mine, right? I'm at the bottom of the list, fighting every day of my life.
You got to find an angle.
Because I'm selling branded goods, right? For the Up and Kitchen Company, I'm selling like branded stuff. And again, like, I'm the low man on the totem pole.
Yeah, and the whole shipping container is a global problem that probably starts in China and has a million other facets to it that I don't think just by
wine for you is the same thing, right? Like, Total Wine probably gets they get to dip their pen in there to get their wine first, and then the local guys like Triangle Wine Company are like, shit, I can't buy the same stuff. I don't know.
Wine's a whole new
wine's a whole different thing. But I mean, we're talking about the wholesaler. So like Winebow is a problem to get Winebow the wine before Total Wine gets it.
Yeah.
So and I don't think that, because their money's no more greener in our sense than the local retailer. So I mean, I'd say from that level, I think it's all parts equal. But I'm wondering, I mean, also, how do you compete in this day and age on, like, when the elephant in the room, people will go on to Amazon and buy the same thing that they can buy from you, alleged, I would think. I haven't been on your site recently, but like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, a couple things. Like, it comes down to, like, kind of what you just said, like having the stuff, and the other thing is, like, I still think people want to leave the house.
Okay.
Most definitely.
And like, what it's like when you got the young kids and it's on Saturday and you're like, they don't have sports or something, thank goodness. And you're like, hey, let's go to the deli.
Yeah.
And let's get some like German hot dogs. You know what I mean? Like, there's still that experiential kind of a thing about retail.
Totally.
That's good. I mean, I think like selection is a big deal, and people like knowing that you're going to have like a selection that I hate the word curated, but like that you've weeded out the junk. Right. Okay. And I think sometimes when you're on Amazon, I don't mean go on Amazon, but sometimes you're on Amazon, like, your stuff there's some junk on there, and you got to figure it out, you know. And
versus
you
Southern
don't know
Season,
it, like, you know, you want something, but you don't know exactly what you want. You know, you're hungry, or you're going to buy a bottle of wine for someone, or you're going to get some whiskey. The whole idea of merchandising. I mean, I've been in retail for a long time, and merchandising was such an important part of the sales structure. And now merchandising just means, how do you develop your web portal, and like, how do people see how all of the offerings are listed on your phone, you know, because you don't know what you want until you get there. And then maybe if you do great programming on your website, it'll say, you've selected this. Many other people have also bought these things. And then you're like, oh yeah, I want that too. But it's not as impactful as the array of display of what you get when you used to walk into, say, a Southern Season. I'm sure that the brick and mortar store really capitalized on extra additional, you know, grab items during the time, because people would just be there and go, oh yeah, I'll get that, and I'll get that, and I'll get that.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny. One of my things I was thinking about, you know, when I bought Southern Season, there was absolutely no impulse to the checkouts. They had champagne.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking splits. I'm talking a 750 of champagne. I mean, I'm like, no chocolate, you know, but a 750 of champagne. I'm like, what the
How
hell?
is that an impulse buy? Yeah.
I'm like,
oh yeah, I'm going to get that $85 bottle of wine just because I saw it.
That's what I was up against. And, you know, and that's been the big part of working with you guys down here and MRC is, you know, like trying to make the brand more like real, approachable, like not trying to be anything that we're not, right? And that's what I've been working with those guys. And I think we've done a really good job. And, you know, just not trying to be anything other than like a great local North Carolina company, right? Not trying to be New York, not trying to be, and I think we're getting there, you know?
Well, I think that's the key is if you are who people want Southern Season to be, then that's where you'll find your success. I think when you try to compete like with Amazon, you're going to lose. There's no way. So like maybe don't sell car tires, you know?
Right. Exactly.
And be like, no, unless North Carolina was really known for great car tires, then maybe that'd be a thing you'd do. But like, and I'm sure they are. I'm sorry for the great car producers that are here in
first Almonds, now like tires, dude. We're like in trouble.
But if you stick with the things that keep Southern Season's brand tight, then that way, like I would know, or anyone listening would know, oh, I want to get some really cool food items. I don't really know what I want to get, but I know if I go on that site, they're going to tell me what is going to be good, the best garlic peelers in town. And
no, but like those, not the almonds, but the Virginia peanuts that that you were talking about, or the Chapel Hill taffy, or
toffee. Ridiculous
toffee,
toffee,
and other specialty good items like that. That's that's your wheelhouse, and that's where people are going to know.
Just finding those local folks, like we got Jules Hot Sauce out of Durham, and working with some of these folks that we're working with. You know, we call them up and we can't say we need 400 because that's going to scare them, right? So we have to call up and, I kind of got to talk to them a little bit and do my thing. And then I'm like, by the way, we need 572, so it's been fun. And they've been like, okay, I can do that, but I need 2 months or whatever else. And so, it's been good getting back to what I, feel like, Southern Seasons should be and the roots of the business, which is sort of identifying these really great small local brands. It's been fun.
So Eric, it sounds like, I know we're getting short on time here, but it sounds like you're doing a lot of the buying and the curating too. Is that right? Or do you have a team at least for that?
Well, no, yeah, sort of. So basically, we did have some folks down here buying, but when I shut the store down, obviously, it was different economics, right? So, and at the end of the day, not to be a control freak, but, like so much of this is we're trying to buy something, right? But we're also selling our business to folks. We're also selling the concept of, you want to be in this Southern Season gift because you're going to fit well and we're going to do something special together. So it's like, I trust myself to have those conversations. And my business is a little more simple now, so I have the time and,
what's cool is like what I've realized is when you do e-commerce, when you do online retail, you just kind of assume that the business is ubiquitous or it's just, it doesn't have a home, much like an Amazon or something like that. You don't really think like, oh, I'm buying it from that wherever Amazon's located, which
right
now it's everywhere. But what I'm learning, what I feel like a little is different here is that even though these companies like a Southern Season could be online, it really is a local shop. It's just the way you access it is, anyone around the world could access it, but which is kind of nice too, because if like my mom in in San Jose, California, wanted to get something that I've been talking about, the Carolina toffee, for instance, she could order it and get it shipped to her, and that'd be fine. But the idea is that you're still shopping local. You're shopping to a local space, even if it's online. So I think that's kind of a neat and new wrinkle into the whole fold of just being an online retailer, is that these brick and mortars don't literally have to be a brick and mortar, but they still, you still have your space in,
Graham.
In Graham. So that is technically a brick and mortar. Your portal, your interface is the virtual
Hey,
space.
we got curbside,
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's cool. I don't know. It's great, and there's so much stuff that you can get on there. Now, are you doing beer and wine? Is the wine shop still
at the moment we're not. So, I anticipate, we've been talking about it and we're going to get back into it, but, there's only, we've been sort of triaging, and now I'm coming out of triage with kind of a full assortment now. So,
well, that's good, because if you did want to get beer or wine and you didn't want to step on Southern Season's toes, you just go to Triangle Wine Company.
That's right.
Because they have multiple locations and an online store, and they keep the lights on over here at the podcast.
That's probably why we're not doing it, right? Because why would I want to, go up against?
Yeah. So you want to go against Chris
and Glenn. They're doing a great job. Yeah, and they're in Holly Springs. They're in North Raleigh in the Bedford community. They're in Southern Pines, and of course in Cary, right near the Whole Foods. And they do curbside. They do some delivery all around the Triangle.
Yeah,
they have everything you need for beer, wine, vermouth, all that stuff. So
get your proof alcohol ice cream there too.
That's right. Proof alcohol ice cream. Think differently about dessert. And why? Because they put the alcohol in the ice cream.
In it. And Eric, you're going to go home with some ice cream as well. We've got it in our branded freezers up in the lobby here at the kitchen. So, so you can get a little scoop of bourbon caramel or strawberry moonshine or
whoa, I got to drive. I don't know. You sure think I can handle it? I don't know.
Well, no, you definitely shouldn't be eating the ice cream while you're driving. I did not say that at all. Do not do that. But you can take it. You can put it in your car, maybe in the trunk, and then when you get home, pop that thing and then mow it down. It'll be good. Now we're in the winter. We're getting the fall into the winter. This is the time you're supposed to put on the pounds and the calories. This is like you're stocking up for the winter. You get warm. So
to hibernate. Yeah.
Eat
don't hibernate. We need you to go out there and actually. Do you just Google Southern Season, or what's the website?
Yeah, well, southernseason.com.
Southernseason.com.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
well, I promised my friends I'd work in Ric Flair and Kenny Powers, but I wasn't able to do that, unfortunately.
Wait a minute. So, how would you work in Ric Flair and Kenny Powers into this?
Well, because my one point was that my view of Southern Season was a little different, and I wanted to have a grand reopening with Vivian Howard and Ric Flair as the MCs. That was my dream.
Woo!
And exactly, and and then just a general, my favorite show of all time. My favorite.
The Flama Blanca, man.
Oh, man. Shelby, North Carolina.
He is the best.
I can't drive by Shelby without having to do a drive-by through Uptown, by the way. It's not downtown, it's Uptown. Shelby, yeah.
That's right.
So, home of liver mush. So, we have Scrapple up in Delaware and Maryland, and liver mush is essentially a very similar product. I love it.
I actually just put that into some quesadillas I made last night.
Dude, one of the items they wouldn't put on the menu in the restaurant in Weathervane, they kept they had excuses, was liver mush tacos with red
delicious.
onion. Oh my God. Yes.
I had them for breakfast. We made breakfast quesadillas because now I have a new range at the house, and we've had the flat top. I'm like, I'm putting this in. I put some poblano salsa, mixed it with the liver mush, put it all in there, some cheese, some eggs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. So
love it.
Yeah. Well, go to southernseason.com, get yourself some liver mush and other specialty goods, and you will eat very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.